Welcome back to another episode of the Adventure of Motorcycles. I'm your host, Adventure Nomad Dad, and tonight I'm joined with a good buddy, Dane, who somehow was convinced to get into this sport that cost him his arm and leg and maybe everything else he owns. That's why he looks like a bum. And he's here tonight to tell us his story. Okay, Dane, so you've been in the sport for not even a full year yet.
Correct.
Let's start with the beginning. Where did you get into motorcycles? Where in life did everything go wrong?
It's kind of ingrained in me by family. Both my parents ride. My grandpa was the manager of a Harley Davidson.
And the truth comes out. Oh,
unfortunately. So I knew right from the get-go, from about 10 years old on, I wanted to ride. I needed to ride. The freedom of riding a bike is addicting. And so about 16 years old, I started riding dirt bikes. And doing off-road stuff, doing dangerous things, and being a dumb 16-year-old.
So what was your first bike?
The first I owned?
Like the first road legal motorcycle. Like dirt bikes count. I'm not disputing that. What was your first legal road?
My first motorcycle was a 1996 Suzuki Bandit. It was chopped to a single seat and very Mad Max style, barely drivable.
And you got rid of it?
Yeah. I was going to kill myself on that thing.
So that's where it all started. Off-road dirt bikes, you said.
Yep.
Then you got into road bikes.
Yep.
How many road bikes did you go through?
Let's see, I had the Suzuki Bandit, then a YZF 750R, and then a Buell Lightning. And
that was a nice bike.
That was a very nice bike.
Fun in the corners.
Killer on the back.
Well, yeah, but who cares? You can buy another one of those. Target's got them on sale every week.
True.
Okay, so you've been riding a long time. How many years roughly now have you been riding?
Roughly approaching about 17 years.
Nice. Okay. Why did you get into this sport?
Well, I feel like it's a perfect mix of what I need. The availability to go off-road when I want to, and the ability to ride on-road if I have to. I don't like riding on road if I can get away with it.
Fair. And you're a tech guy, you're a mechanic, you're very in tune with motors and technology and everything like that.
Indeed.
So you did a lot of research leading into purchasing an ADV bike.
An absolute ridiculous amount of research.
So I want to know which bikes were in your top running. Like what bikes were you looking at comparing with?
Well, there was definitely the interest in some of the cheaper Chinese bikes. But the T7 was a top competitor. The V-Strom was definitely on the list.
That's a very good bike. Some might argue it's the best.
Some might. I'd agree, but then we'd both be wrong. I think the fact that I grew up learning to ride on a YZ125 is what ultimately tipped me towards the T7. And after a ton of research into what makes a T7 a T7, I had to have one.
So it's a little bit of maybe long-term brand loyalty-ish kind of deal?
A little bit. I think I like the blue.
But you didn't want the blue when you bought it.
No, I didn't mean the color necessarily. But the only thing that was putting me off even the slightest bit is how tall the T7 is.
And do you remember the measurements on that?
I believe it was 34 inches.
I think it's like 34.4 if I remember correctly.
Something
it was
like
ridiculous.
that.
It was ridiculous.
And for reference, I am 5'6".
You're an inch taller than me?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it matters because I can't touch on that bike, and we already lowered it.
Correct. We lowered it an inch and I could barely touch. But
I actually love the T7. As I talked about last year on the show, I think I referenced it a lot. I think I even did a podcast where we did a little segment on it's one of and this is my opinion, of the unrecognized top contenders. The T7 by far is, in my opinion, in the top 3 best ADV bikes.
Absolutely.
I've said that a lot, but I don't own one. But I'm curious. So I heard rumors about the T7, where, I mean, it's phenomenal all the way around. How do you feel about, because you've come from powerful bikes, the Buell and everything, the Suzuki, which is obviously the most powerful bike you ever rode, no comment. Where does this one stack up? Like, how does it feel comparatively to other bikes you've ridden? Is it sluggish?
I wouldn't say that it's sluggish. It does what it needs to do, and it has as much power as you need it to have. I mean, it has an R7 motor in it. It has the torque. With a parallel twin, it makes plenty of torque. With people that are used to having larger displacement bikes, 1,000 cc's and upwards, I feel like those people will be disappointed if what they're looking for is speed. Where the trade-off happens is the
off-road capabilities.
Oh, the off-road capability is insane.
Yeah, the suspension, the clearance, the narrowness. That's
Even
one thing about
the geometry.
T7. Yeah,
the geometry of the swing arm and how that acts when you give it power acts differently than most other bikes.
Much more nimble.
Yes, and the tank is slimmer. I like that.
And so you got this bike not even a year ago.
Yeah.
We pretty much got it. And I mean, we're friends. We worked on it together. We got it. You tricked it out. We lowered it. We did everything. We got you ready for the BDR.
Yep.
Because you wanted to go on the BDR.
Had to go on the BDR.
You had very little experience with this bike off-road before we went on the BDR.
Oh, yeah. I had 300 miles on it.
300 miles, mostly commuting to work. I think we went off-road a little bit here and there just for you to get a feel of it.
We went off-road one time.
One time.
I got 300 miles on it when we hit the back road discovery route.
Okay. And so, what was your thoughts on the WABDR? Like leading up to it, everything you might have known about it, what was your thoughts going after it?
Leading up to it, it was nerve-wracking, of course. The anticipation of, will I be able to ride this bike to its capability? What am I to expect? What kind of climate are we going to be going into? What kind of terrain are we going to be going into? It all scared the hell out of me.
And just to set the record, we had to travel half of the state south, and we're in Washington, to start the Washington BDR.
Correct. So it was a long day of getting to camp on first night.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, the first thing that happened to us, because we rode together, you, me, and 2 others, and we were meeting up with essentially group 1 and group 2. We were group 3 joining to make a big group.
Right.
So for us, we left, because I like to paint the picture, we left in the afternoon.
Yes, it was about 4 o'clock.
Which was great to get on the I-5 headed south.
Yeah,
through everything.
Stop and go traffic.
And 100 degrees, because I think we went in July or something.
Yes.
And so, it was nice and perfect temperature. It's the exact weather everybody wants to ride in with all their gear and sit in traffic, right?
Correct.
All right, cool. And so we left. We're headed down there. Obviously, now reality is set in. It's happening. We're headed there. How'd you feel?
I felt good about it. Having that much time on the freeway on this bike definitely got me in tune with it. Because the maximum time I had on this bike at one given time was about an hour or so. So going down about 4 hours constantly on a bike and stop and go traffic, surrounded by other cars on the freeway.
And that stop and go really helped you to learn how to kick one leg off to reach the ground?
Yeah, to basically jump off the bike to reach the ground. Yeah, that was great. Clutch hand was real sore after that.
And so we got down there.
Dark. We hit the trailhead at like 10 o'clock at night, and it was uphill mud pretty much the whole way. All of us were struggling.
Do you remember the funny part about that? I remember this, and sorry, I gotta adjust my hood here. I remember this. It was hilarious to me because I remember telling Group A, the first team that headed in, to pick the campsite and be like 20, 30 minutes in.
Correct.
I remember that conversation.
Yes, as do I.
And then here we are, going after this pin on a map. What was it, like an hour in at 10 o'clock? We got to camp at like midnight.
Yes.
In the dark.
Correct.
In the mud.
Correct.
It was amazing.
It was one of the best parts of the trip, actually. Ass-clenching terror really puts a lot of adrenaline and smiles on people's faces.
How did your tires do in the mud that night?
Because
I
had
new tires on my bike then. Well, I mean, they weren't new. They were broke in. But I put knobbies on.
Yeah.
I missed the detail about apparently they're horrible in mud. And at the time, I was on my Pan America.
Yeah.
They did great in the mud. No, they did not. Every time I hit mud, man, I would just instantly wobble out.
I remember I was right behind you.
How did yours do?
Pretty good. Pretty good, I would say. I mean, as soon as I hit the mud, you transfer your weight, and everything's golden.
And these are stock. This is
These
what
are
came with
stock
the Pan
Pirelli
America,
tires.
or Tenere.
Yes.
So what other... You got to camp, it's midnight, you set up. How are you feeling at camp? Like, I mean, you're ready to go. You're exhausted already.
I was exhausted.
Just getting to camp.
Just kidding. It was a long day. It was a long, warm day of in-traffic riding, that off-road darkness. And I had a tinted visor this whole time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
so I
You had a
couldn't
tinted
see
visor.
more than 10 feet in front of me. And that 10 feet in front of me was you squirreling out.
Well, you know.
So I was exhausted. Set up camp, and I learned the value of getting a decent sleeping pad. That was
Because
huge.
this was essentially your first time moto camping as well.
Correct. I've been camping plenty of times, but never off of a motorcycle.
So you bit off a lot. First time moto camping, first time BDR, kind of basically first time with this bike.
Oh, this was
everything was
what,
brand
2 months
new.
after I bought this bike?
I
We
don't
did
even
this
think
trip.
it was 2 months. To be honest. I think it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was a ridiculous timeline. I bought the bike. Somehow I got the crash bars on it. Somehow I got the luggage carrier. Somehow I got the bags to put on it. It was insane how I got the amount of stuff on this bike in the timeline that I did.
So day 2, you woke up at camp.
I was psyched.
Psyched.
I was so freaking excited.
So how was it riding out? Like what? Walk us through it. Walk us through your journey on the BDR now.
Well, we woke up and had a killer breakfast, had some delicious breakfast burritos, and went over the itinerary of the day with the group. And then we took off.
What was the itinerary?
The itinerary was to go from campsite, or section 1, getting into section 2.
To Bethel Ridge.
To Bethel Ridge, which is the highlight of the trip. But there was some, I'm not going to say drama, but there was some excitement in getting from 1 to 2.
Some of the excitement. Would you say that's the bikes? Because remember, we were joined that day by, what was Max on?
I believe that was a CR 300 or 350.
I don't think it was that big. I think it was a 250.
Was it a 250?
I think it was a 250. And so some of the drama I remember is the sections where you have to be on the highway.
Yeah.
And I remember it really slowing the whole group down.
Yeah, he was down. He was right behind his windscreen.
He was
as
trying.
low as
No one's stopping
yeah.
him. He was going.
He was going as good as he could go. But yeah, going down the hill in the gravel, descending from the campsite down the hill, we had one crash right off the bat. Somebody came up on a hill and did a little pirouette and dumped the bike. It just happens
We
sometimes.
have that on camera.
We do. That'll be shown soon.
That was crazy because it was right in front of me, and me and Kid we were racing out. We were having fun because I had stopped and the whole group went by, and everyone, because I had to use the restroom. I had to water a tree that looked dehydrated, and so Kid hung back with me, and I think Mace was in his Jeep, and he was behind us even. And so Kid and me started going, we're having fun because there's a big gap between us now. We're having fun, headed out. Thank God he actually decided to take one for the team and go that route off-road because I was headed for it myself. We were going too fast and came up on a turn in this really loose gravel downhill. We were both veering for it, and because he took it, I feel like subconsciously that took everything I had to get away from it now. And I watched him go up, and like the bike turned, looked like he smacked a tree. But he ended up being totally okay.
Yeah, Kid was okay, and that's when we smiled and laughed about it. And then we all regrouped at the bottom of the hill, proceeded to go to the first gas station and rehydrate and refuel, and then hit section 2 on our way up to the Bethel Ridge. And that was a fantastic climb.
How did the Tenere do on the climb right before we got to Bethel Ridge when it was that rocky terrain?
The washboard? The
Yeah,
washboard almost took
washboard,
my bike apart.
Kind of washboard, but it was basically a lot of protruding rocks, and there was the cliff on this side with the half-ass guardrail. It's a wire guardrail thing, where a lot of people originally were nervous and thought that was hard. You remember that section?
Oh yeah.
How did it perform?
So first we hit the washboard. this bike shook apart and I almost lost my skid plate. So after zip tying my skid plate back on.
I forgot about that. I'm not going to lie. I totally forgot about that
After
part.
zip tying my skid plate back on, the bike handled through that phenomenally, besides shaking
Wait
the
a
bolts
minute.
off.
That's not a KTM. Why are parts flying off?
Because a child put it together. Didn't use any Loctite, so use Loctite, people. And then we hit the hill to reach up to Bethel Ridge, which I believe is 7,400 feet.
72, 74, something like that?
Something like that. And it was fairly fist-sized rocks going uphill, hill on the left side, and then a cliff on the right side. And there was a wire barrier, so you knew where to not go.
It'll save the bike, not you.
Correct. And the only thing that carried me through that was confidence.
And you were leading the pack. That's the other thing we didn't mention.
Front of the line.
You're leading the entire pack of 9 bikes,
Yeah.
I believe, in 2 chase cars.
Correct. So I was mainly...
The pressure's not on. It's cool, you know.
No, I just had to set the pace. That's all. The thing I was focusing on was the front tire and 5 feet in front of it and where my tire is going to track. And just keep on the power. You slow down, you're screwed. So, just keep on gunning through it and reach. When in doubt,
Throttle out.
throttle out.
So you reach,
Works every time.
You reach Bethel Ridge.
And that was... I don't know how to describe the feeling after that much adrenaline in a hill climb on a rocky terrain and then reaching a cliff face overlooking southern Washington like that. I haven't seen anything like that in my life. And I took my helmet off and it was...
I think it's important to say, if you've never experienced Bethel Ridge, it's totally... So while we were up there, a Rivian, a Tesla, a Subaru, any vehicle can make it up there.
Oh yeah.
It's
with
worth going if you've never experienced Bethel Ridge. I mean, wait, we don't want everyone going. It's horrible. You can't get there unless you're an extreme off-roader and willing to jump your Jeep. Like Mace. Anyway, yeah, I think we had a busted oil pan, right? Or a rear diff or something like that. But moving on. So, where'd you set up camp second night?
Second night, we, after about an hour of searching what would be the most ideal spot, we found what would be probably closest to a rock overhanging a cliff, kind of where the monkey held Simba.
Pride Rock.
Pride Rock, bingo, that's the one. Very much like that, we camped on the cliffside and enjoyed that scene all night long next to a fire.
Do you remember the worst part about camping there? Do you remember the worst part?
The mosquitoes?
The mosquitoes.
The mosquitoes covered you like a sweater.
So for those of us that are bald, well, let's not skip that. So we camped there all night. We had fun, right? It was a great night.
No, it was fantastic.
I remember waking up, and the mosquitoes are still there, by the way. They had actually picked my tent up overnight and moved me a couple feet. Kid set up way in the back 9 along with Max. They set up way off in the back 9 next to the woods where the mosquitoes are worse. But I remember getting up, and I go out there to get the coffee, and Mace was awake, and Mace is bald like me. And for everyone who's watching at home, you can't see Mace because he hides behind the cameras. But he was there, and I just remember the fattest mosquito I think I've ever seen was on top of his bald head. And I didn't want to smack his head first thing in the morning, but I told him, I was like, dude, you got a fat one. And he just did like this, trying to brush it away. Well, he smashed it. Now he has this red mohawk. And I had these off stickers with the little goofy faces that are supposed to repel. So I put one on his head. I don't know if he put it here, but he had it on his head. And it actually worked. So then I put one on my head, and then everyone else started putting them on their heads. Yeah, right. I mean, it was a classic, hilarious little moment. But walk us through now. You're excited about day 2, I'm assuming. Well, 3 at this point.
Sore.
I
was sore, for sure.
But day 3 went off without a hitch, right?
Day 3 went, kind of. At this point, I'd realized I had no food. My food had gone bad.
We won't go down that path.
We're just going to ignore that. But I was exhausted.
Hold on, I'm trying to track your memory here. Day 3 went off without a hitch, huh?
No.
Life flights, broken bikes.
Yeah, it started okay. It started with breakfast, as it should. It started with everybody in a good mood. Besides one of our companions that had been added on later on, he got very sick. Whether it was dehydration, whether it was altitude sickness.
I think the final word that came out, as far as what we know, it was suffering from dehydration, heat exhaustion, combined with altitude sickness.
Yeah, so that's a trifecta of horrible.
Yeah.
And what happened after that? It wasn't bad on my end. There was a lot of footwork on our end to get that rider off of the top of this ridge and helicoptered to safety because he was not making it out of his den.
No, it's a true story. We're not exaggerating. It was a life flight off the mountain. Radios. I know that's the thing. We all had radios. We were communicating. Luckily, we had 2 support vehicles on the trip. And the biggest problem for us was getting a hold of someone to get his bike off the mountain because we didn't know this dude real well, and so we wanted to make sure he had all his property going home. And of course, when we got him down and off the mountain safely, now the focus was his bike. And did you join us to return the bike? I honestly don't remember. I was so focused on. So to set the scene, we had 9 bikes and 2 trucks on this trip, and of course I kind of put this trip on, and so my main goal is taking care of all 9 bikes and getting everybody, making sure everything's good. So my main focus was getting now his bike down the mountain. And Mace, who was driving the Jeep sport truck, we got a hold of his dad finally. His dad was going to meet us at the bottom of section 2, the same section we came up.
Right.
I rode his CRF 250 back down and out. We get to his dad, and his dad is like, I was worried. I don't know his dad. I don't know this guy that well. I'm thinking they're going to hate us. They're going to get mad. But I ended up meeting up with his dad, who was super nice. I think he tried to pay us originally.
I remember you saying that.
However, I felt so bad because your kid's on a life flight. I have no idea what it's going to cost, how it's going to go. Super nice man. Mace, because he's made the trip in and out like 3 or 4 times now with his Jeep, trying to get a hold of the life flight, the ambulance, and coordination. His Jeep's almost D, and I see the dad had like a 5-gallon thing of gas in there, and I'm like, how about we give you some cash for that gas right there? Would that be okay? Totally gave it to us for free.
Baller.
Then come to find out, he busted his oil pan coming up, and now he's stuck here waiting for a tow truck. But I kind of like to do a shout out because that was super nice of him. That's a quality of a person that doesn't exist anymore. That's why I wanted to tell
kept a positive attitude.
Oh,
the whole
super
thing.
positive, super positive. He thanked us for taking care of his kid and thought we made the right call and everything was great. We get back up to camp, and now we're getting ready to leave Bethel Ridge. And it's like, what, 3 in the afternoon at this point?
Yeah, we started leaving at 3 in the afternoon. And we're all tired. We've been baking in the sun. It's either baking in the sun to the point where you feel like you could reach up and touch that sun right there.
We have a picture of all of us huddled under one tarp between 2 bikes.
Yeah, that was the only way.
There's like 6 of us under this in the shade.
Because if you tried to go in the
woods.
shade, you get covered in mosquitoes immediately. It was insane. So we managed to get 4 bikes in 4 corners and tie a tarp to it, and we're all huddled underneath it like a gypsy camp.
And we smell real good.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic at this point. We've been sweating all day. It's been stressful. None of us have really eaten that much. We just want to go.
So we get going.
Not 10 feet into it. Donnie, I'm leading the pack down, and I take probably a less than favorable track because...
Well, let's paint the scene, though. When you leave camp, what was the terrain?
It was a lot of deep ruts, mud in the center, or high shoulders with a very thin track. The T7, thin enough. It can do the thin tracks and balance really easily.
I had no problem.
The Pan America that followed me
to follow not mine.
Donnie's Pan America. Tried to follow the same track. And mind you, he has the street tires that the Pan America came with. So he falls into the rut. As he falls into it, his thumb hits Harley Davidson's trademark glass starter switch, and it shatters.
And let's explain the starter switch, because it's not a typical starter switch like on every other bike I've seen.
No.
This one's different.
Of course not.
Why
would it be the same?
It's not a toggle. It's a rotating...
it's a click and a push.
Yes, you rotate it and then you push the center of it.
Right. So that explodes. And now Donnie is in a pit. Switch is broken. Bike won't turn on. We're all stuck. He's got 10 people behind him, ready to go. And we're stuck.
And of course, when you go down, there's the embarrassment factor. You're kind of embarrassed.
Because this is Donnie's first time, too.
Yeah. But you shouldn't be embarrassed if you ride off-road overlanding. You should not
be embarrassed. It's part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole thing. And it's what I expected. I'm surprised I didn't break anything serious till later. So Donnie's mad. I stop my bike, park it off to the side, and I walk back to see what happened because there's nobody following me. And then I look at the situation. Donnie's walking away with frustration. And I ask Lucky to grab the toolkit. So we start dissecting. And I get into the switch and manage to take all the broken guts out and figure out how this very simple mechanical thing is overcomplicated.
You're saying, though, that you said when Donnie came up, and I like to commend you. I always tell the story of how your cool demeanor came out, because as Donnie came up, he's just kind of losing the thing. The bike ain't gonna stuck. We're stuck on Bethel Ridge.
He's wondering how we're gonna get a tow truck out here.
How we're gonna get a tow truck. Who's towing the bike? How's he gonna get out of here? So he feels like he's holding the group up after waiting all day with the whole medevac, helivac.
Not 10 minutes after that.
And so I understand his frustration.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He came up, and I don't remember your saying, but he's like, it's broken, this, that, and you were like, said, I don't remember, but it was something like, whoa, broken pieces are just things that haven't been fixed yet, or something like that.
It's just an opportunity to fix it.
That's what it was, something like that.
It just wanted to be fixed. So I take it apart, and I get all the guts out of it that are broken and unusable, and figure out how it works, and we find a solution.
We're talking watch-size screws, springs,
oh yeah, there,
Mike.
I had to have people holding their hands underneath it in case I dropped anything, because we're in the mud. And after figuring out how it works, and I didn't say anything to anybody, and I finally hit the on button, and the bike fires up, and the look that came over Donnie's face was the best. I wish I could have saved that moment forever. He was very excited.
So replay what it took to start his bike now.
So, after taking all the guts out, there's 2 microscopic buttons that this little toggle switch hits when you flick it over. So we had to take an Allen wrench, poke the on button, then take the button from the center, put it in, and start the bike. Take the button back out safely into the pocket. So that way he can turn it off again.
So it was like a 5-step process. He had to take this little Allen key to reach down, hit it, tuck it back in, pull the button out, put it on, hit the fire, put the button back away so he could start it again, then put his glove back on.
Correct. Helmet, glove, 100 degrees.
And we're moving again.
Now we're moving. And so we get through some of the complicated stuff. I think people were wary after that. People were riding a little slower, a little safer, which in turn is not safer. When you're riding like that, you got to ride with confidence, because if you go slow, you're going to lay it over. You're going to lay down. Your bike will take a nap.
Yeah, and I think on that section out, I mean, we just talked about Donnie's, but at this point in the trip now, everyone except for 3 of the riders has gone down.
Correct.
I mean, we won't get into all those, but now
I haven't gone down yet.
We're on the we got you, me, and Dan are the only ones who haven't gone down. And just so everyone knows, you're leading. I'm midway to watch over the front half. Dan is bringing up the rear of bikes, watching the rear half of riders.
Right.
So we staggered the 3 to help guide, and that's the order. And so the 3 quote-unquote guides, for lack of a better term, are the only 3 that haven't gone down.
Right. So we get 2 hours into this ride, and we're doing really good. We're killing it. We're almost at the end of section 2. We're almost
The descent.
And there's food at the end of it. I know there's food at the end of it. So I'm getting excited. And we start going down the switchbacks that lead to the main road. The switchbacks are pretty heavy descent with 180-degree turns with 1.25" minus gravel. That was fresh.
Just switchbacks all the way down.
Switchbacks, right back and forth. I was leading, and Donnie, who was a new adventure rider as well, was right behind me. I saw the corner coming up and slowed down a fair amount and then tried to warn him to do the same. And in that moment, I forgot that I needed to follow through in this corner. And during the corner, and I decided not to turn into it, the tire caught, the front wheel caught, and it decided it didn't want to go anymore either. So it then bucked me off the side, shattered my mirror, turned my bars to the side, took a chunk out of my palm, and I forgot to mention that I lost a glove at camp. To make matters
worse. You were
worse,
Michael Jackson riding.
Yes, single hand, my throttle hand had no glove. I hit the gravel, and it took a chunk out of my palm, and I slid on my sunburn all through the gravel.
That's because you were smart in riding without your jacket.
Correct, I was
or any
riding in a
protection.
vest because I was hot.
Vest only.
Correct. That wasn't a great feeling. And it was amazing how far that bike catapulted me off. Because it is a tall bike. And with that force, I landed about 5 feet away from it. That hurt. And there was nothing anybody could do because everybody was also on the descent of the hill.
Yes.
So my bike laying there ready to be put down.
And right where you wrecked, it was kind of like banked into the turn, and you were right on the turn, and so anyone who tried to stop couldn't because our bikes are going to fall over. It was too severe an angle.
Right. So everybody had to ride down.
Yeah, because I remember
before
riding.
I could be helped.
I remember seeing, and I remember asking, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, fine." There's this blood, and I'm like, "Oh, faint. I'll see you later." And I just kept going. But then I walked, like a mile and a half back up Mount Son of a Bitch to come help you.
Yes, you were very sweaty. So we got the bike up, and now I'm worried because the shock has gone, and my wounds have been packed with dirt. So it's not bleeding as much, but I could feel the staph infection setting in. So I get the guy that has the medical kit, and we get it dressed up, and he loans me a pair of gloves, and I'm shaking at this point. My confidence was here, and now it's been knocked way down because I had gone 5, 6, 50, 60 miles off-road, no problem, no crashes, all confident as all hell.
You were in way worse sections.
Oh, way worse sections. That was a really dumb spot to lay it down.
Yeah, I mean, the Prius had to wait on us to get by, so...
Right. So after wrapping up and putting a glove on and pretty much babying the bike down the hill because I was scared. I'm not afraid to say that. I was scared. I was not feeling great. I was hurting. So I let you take the lead, and you disappeared. Then we tried to... There's really only one way out of there, so I just kind of took my time and took it safe with everybody else. And we made it down to the bottom and regrouped.
Just for the record, I didn't ditch the group.
No, you rode at your pace.
I rode at my pace, and at every time there was a decision to be made, I waited until the next bike saw which way I went. I did not ditch the group. I just gave them a friendly nod that you can go faster. You don't have to be afraid.
Right.
Plus, I figured if I went fast enough and got away from him, then if I wrecked, no one would have saw it.
True.
Now they're all going to be thinking, shit, did he wreck?
No, we would have got it on video.
Yeah, you would have, because I had cameras all over the place.
Yes, you did.
So, you made it out.
Made it out. We regrouped and
what was
proceeded.
it like hitting blacktop again?
It was like going barefoot in gravel for 100 miles and then putting on a pair of comfortable slippers. It was very nice and a very nice change of pace to get on something I can trust and doesn't shift under you. But at that point, I knew our trip was almost over, so I was kind of bummed out.
Yeah.
But I knew there was food.
And it was good food.
It was dang good food.
There was good food. Now I'd like to talk about our affordable find.
Right on.
One of the things I like to do is find reasonably priced stuff that every rider should enjoy. This is my affordable find this week. Not a rechargeable, sorry. This is a heated vest that they sell on Amazon. There's many different types. You can go from $20 all the way up to $100 and something. The best part is they're USP. You can carry a battery in the pocket. Me, I like to wear mine plug into the bike when I'm riding. When I get to camp, because we're in the Pacific Northwest where it's always cold, you plug a battery in, and now you're warm at camp. I sleep in mine when I go. I can honestly say I've ridden in as low as 18 degrees is what the ambient temperature was when I took off.
You can plug in any battery pack to that and it'll work?
Anything with a USB battery pack. And the prices range from, like I said, I think originally I bought mine years ago. I'm on 4 years and I bought like a $35 one from Amazon. I think, and everyone just about that we ride with now has invested in one of these, and so I think this is a pretty important affordable find that anyone who really wants to go riding off-road, year-round riding, doesn't matter what type of road or riding really, even road riding, it's a cheap alternative to staying warm and both on and off the bike. So that's my affordable find, and
that's a great find.
It's a great find. And so if you enjoyed this episode, my buddy Dane here, or if you didn't, I really think you don't want to share Dane, so you should share it to all your friends to let them know don't watch this. Or you can like and follow and subscribe and be on the lookout for the next episode.